Youngblood. If you going out to the yard today, I would skip it. Them two gangs out there I heard was gonna pop off, and you don't need to be around that. Also, if you crunch up the spicy hot Cheetos and mix them with the water before you boil the rice, it'll color the rice and flavor it and make it taste like the streets.
From NCPR, welcome to Northwards. People, ideas, and conversations from and about Northern New York, Vermont, and beyond. I'm Mitch Teich.
Support for the Northwards podcast comes from the J.C. Steiniger and M.E. McDonald Charitable Fund at Adirondack Community Foundation in support of the Adirondack Community Foundation, building stronger Adirondack communities.
Ethan, you know why my neck hurts?
Tell me, Mitch.
About almost a month ago. It's probably 3 weeks ago now.
You've been dealing with this for a month?
I've been dealing with this for a month.
Oh,
yes.
my God. I'm
Not
sorry.
quite a month. More like 3 weeks. But I was lying in bed, right?
Where most neck injuries occur.
That's apparently...
when you get to a certain age.
Yeah, right, exactly. I wish I could just say I slept wrong because that's lame enough. But no, the reason my neck hurts is because I
turn
have
to look at your clock.
Yeah, no, it's better than that. I have a cockapoo that really loves to give me big wet kisses first thing in the morning.
Uh-huh.
And his notion of personal space is somewhat limited, which is why when he stepped on my neck and I went to bend to shove him off of my neck,
Oh, man.
that was how I hurt my neck.
When Erin and I were on vacation a couple weeks ago, she threw out her back just by sitting in the car for too long, which is great. It's amazing that bodies work the way that they're supposed to. And
I think the recall notice is forthcoming, isn't it?
and then, normally she goes to a chiropractor. Obviously, she was not able to visit her chiropractor. We were 600 miles from home. But we found that there was a masseuse in Tappahannock, about 15 minutes from where we were staying. And the masseuse was able to take care of her. It was a really unique experience for Erin. I don't know if she's gotten a massage before. I never have. But the little diminutive woman was like climbing on her back and then like jabbing
the
her.
mental image is like...
Yeah, like jabbing her knees into her spine. And that eased some of her back pain for the most part. And then immediately after the massage, when she was feeling better, we drove about an hour to get to a beach, and we were in the water for 10 minutes when she was stung by a jellyfish. It was an eventful trip.
Although I have to say Tappahannock Masseuse would be a great name for a band.
Ooh, I'm going to put that in our Slack channel right now. Have you ever been stung by a jellyfish?
I have been stung by a jellyfish,
Really?
yes.
Was
Yep.
it a big one, or was it a sea nettle like Erin was stung by?
I think it was a sea net. It's been a long time,
Okay.
but yeah, growing up in Maryland, we would go to the Chesapeake Bay. In fact, I think when I was stung by a jellyfish, this would have been while I was on a trip with the 8th grade Outdoor Pursuits Club.
Okay.
And we spent an extended weekend on this tiny little island in the Chesapeake Bay, which the little island, the only thing that was on it was this sort of bunkhouse thing that was run by the Chesapeake Bay Foundation for estuary research. And so we spent a ton of time in the water, and I think several of us got stung by it. Must have been sea nettles. I mean, I don't remember it being super
painful or lasting. Yeah.
I mean, it was
Erin's-
definitely painful, but it wasn't traumatic. I wasn't afraid of the water from there on out.
Right. Yeah. Did you get your stung by a jellyfish badge out of that occasion?
No.
Well, there's still time.
How about Erin? Did she get a stung by a jellyfish badge out
She
of the
did.
deal?
I awarded it to her. It was not super traumatic for her. Like, we were swimming in the water, and like I said, for about 10 minutes, and she said, "Ow, I think something just stung me." And the water wasn't like the clearest. It was like a little murky. So I was like, "Are you sure it wasn't just like a stick that happened to me floating by that we walked into?" She was like, "No, dude, I'm stung." And I should have believed her. We got out of the water, and
I got your stick right here.
and we could see that her leg was like a little inflamed. But a couple hours later, it kind of receded, and she wasn't in pain anymore. So
This is a great story.
This, yeah. When we talk about
You should invite her to the
stories,
Howl.
the story of our disastrous trip to Virginia, and that's not even the worst of it, which I'll tell you off mic. But
Who's Mike?
Thank
you.
Anyway, the reason we're talking about stories is because a brand new season of the HOWL Podcast is coming out.
That's right. Oh, was that my cue?
That was your
That's
cue.
right. I'm the host of the show, and you're the host of the HOWL Podcast. This is Ethan Shantie. Ethan Shantie is with us in the studio. He's recently back from Virginia, where his partner was stung by a jellyfish.
We were victims of all manner of calamity in Virginia. I will never be traveling. Well, if I have to travel there again, I will bypass Pennsylvania.
It's no West Virginia.
I've said that many times. I'm not a big fan of the roads in Pennsylvania. I can tell you that.
Pennsylvania highways are an interesting species. They seem to have been built before the heyday of road construction.
One of the first states in our great union, and they still have not figured out how roads work 200 years later.
So Ethan Shantie is
Yes.
the producer of Northwards and also the host of the HOWL Podcast. The HOWL Podcast, for people who aren't familiar with it, it's like a spinoff of this show, right?
Is it?
No, it's not. Sorry.
In the same way that Joey was a spinoff of Friends.
Yes, or Mork and Mindy was a spinoff of Happy Days.
Yeah, I knew that.
The HOWL Podcast is more like a spinoff of
The HOWL
the
Story Slam.
underwriting breaks that you normally hear during midday programming on North Country Public Radio,
Yes.
in which Ethan Shantie says things like,
Support for Here and Now comes from Northwoods Engineering.
exactly like
Serving
that.
the civil-
That's like a really short story, but the HOWL is a longer story slam.
Not too long,
Story
though.
show stories.
Yes, we're welcoming season 4 of the HOWL Podcast, which I host, where I am taking some of my favorite stories that we've heard on stage at some of our live story slams, which are often taking place in bars and restaurants. Sometimes they're taking place in gazebos. Sometimes they're taking place on big stages in Saranac Lake or in Canton. But they are all serving the same end, which is to celebrate the glory of storytelling, whether that's a person sharing the story of how they learned to cook in their grandmother's kitchen, or as we'll hear on this season of the podcast, a guy who learned how to cook while he was in prison, which is a really fantastic story. Sometimes, like is the case with that tale, we are bringing people into this studio so they can have a little bit longer period of time in order to flesh out their story, because sometimes the stories that we gather at the live story slams can be pretty short. Like some of our storytellers can spin this amazing placing yarn in a minute and a half. But I found that often there were details that were being left out because they just don't, 5 minutes goes by really fast. So a couple of years ago, I started inviting people into the studio to tell longer versions of those stories. And this season, that is going to include my friend Becca Donnelly, who is the president of Potsdam Pride. So she'll be sharing the story of how Potsdam Pride got started and her kind of nerve-wracking interaction with a drag queen. We'll also be inviting Sam Daring into the studio, who will tell us that story about how he learned to cook while in prison. It's a really fascinating story.
Well, and I think the ability to tell it in a slightly longer format and in kind of an interactive format in a studio like this gives us a chance to get to know the storytellers a little bit better than just what we might hear on a stage.
Yeah. So for this episode of Northwards, we thought we would do a crossover episode and play you some clips of stories that you can expect to hear on this season of the podcast. So let's hear from Rhiannon. She told this story at Smoke Signals in Lake Placid about a chance meeting with one of the Beach Boys.
I noticed this T-shirt and it says Beach Boys, and I'm like, oh, the Beach Boys, are you a fan? He goes, oh yeah, big fan. I'm like, well, they performed last night at the State Fair in Syracuse. Did you go? And he's like, oh yeah, I was there. They were okay. I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I saw Brian Wilson last summer at the State Fair with my mom, the head of the Beach Boys. He goes, oh, Brian, that guy can be an and I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. And he goes, Bruce Johnson, by the way. I'm like, okay. And he goes, I'm one of the Beach Boys. And I'm like, oh my God. And he goes, it's okay, I'm not really the cover guy, And so my girlfriend comes back and she says, hey, our table's ready. And I'm like, order me an omelet, surprise me. Like, I'll be there. So we're chatting and we're chatting. And they tell him, oh, your table's open. So off he goes with other Beach Boys to the breakfast table. And we start to say our goodbyes. And then I realize, like, who it is I'm talking to. And I'm just like, I'm so sorry. I need to say something to you. And this is going to be weird, but I need to say it. 4 months ago, my partner died. He was going for a run and his heart just stopped and he dropped. And before we met, individually, one of our favorite albums was Pet Sounds by the Beach Boys. And from that album, God Only Knows, still to this day, one of the most perfect songs I've ever heard. And I said, and he's not here anymore, but that song is. And because of you, you've given this to me. And I just want to say thank you. And he just looks at me and he goes, holy shit, Slim, I don't know what to do with that.
That was Rhiannon. She is the very first storyteller of this season of the HOWL Podcast. Mitch, where were you when you first heard the Beach Boys?
I can tell you exactly where I was when I first heard the Beach Boys, and that
Are you
was
serious?
on the National Mall in Washington, D.C., where they used to play a concert on the 4th of July. I wanted to say it was on the 4th of July, 1976 for the bicentennial, but I went back and looked it up, and they did not play at that. But they were a yearly thing.
I did not expect you to have a real answer for this.
And I remember being so taken by them that I talked my parents into going out and getting me a Beach Boys record like the day after I saw them in concert.
What was that first song that really blew you away?
You know, for some strange reason, I think it was Sloop John B.
Oh, it's great.
It's a great song.
That whole record is amazing. It's one of my favorites of all time. On the first episode of the Howl, I also share my not quite first experience with the Beach Boys, but like my first experience realizing that the Beach Boys are amazing and life-changing, and Pet Sounds is like a perfect record. But, you know, I won't give all of that away.
Well,
now
but it's
because I want you
really,
to
I think
listen
it's
to the
really
show.
easy to dismiss them as, you know, kind of summer or surfing music.
Yeah, like they're like the band that your parents put on when the weather turns nice. But there's so much more than that. Like, I really think that Pet Sounds is like a perfect piece of music. And the fact that it came out of Brian Wilson's head almost exclusively, you know, with all of his mental troubles and the things going on in his life, the personal issues that, like, it's incredible that this piece of music exists. Like, I feel like when Brian Wilson died, all I could think is like how lucky I am to have existed at the same time as him, because he's just a once in a lifetime genius.
I will share one brief Beach Boys story.
Okay.
That's not really a Beach Boys story so much as it is. This is who my friends and I were in college. A bunch of us went to a minor league baseball game in, I think it was the game we went to in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
And Mike Love threw out the opening pitch.
No, not at all. Not even close. No, they were playing music in between innings, and they were playing "Help Me, Rhonda."
Oh, really?
And we were all singing along to it. And just before the part where they go, "Help me, Rhonda," they like faded the music down, but we were all still singing.
That's awesome.
And I feel like we almost got a round of applause from the people that were sitting around us.
Help me, Rhonda is the thing that my Aunt Joanne would say whenever she was exasperated by one of us. Like, help me, Rhonda. Anyway.
Moving on.
One of the other stories that we're going to be featuring on this season of the HOWL Podcast came from this most recent live storytelling season, where our theme was Kitchen Confidential. So people could share stories about learning to cook, a secret family recipe, or a mishap at a restaurant or a misconnection at a restaurant. Basically, like anything involving food. And this guy kept showing up to all of these. Not all of them, but a lot of these Kitchen Confidential slams. And he was telling this story about how he learned to cook while he was in prison. And it was unlike any other story I think that's ever been told on the HOWL stage or on the podcast.
It made my bagel slicing incident seem like child's play.
Quaint, yeah.
Yes.
And so, when I listened back to this recording, I knew that there were details that Sam wasn't able to include in that 5-minute rendition of the story. So I invited Sam into the studio to tell it in a longer version here at NCPR. So let's hear a clip from Sam and how he learned to cook in prison.
So one time I'm in my suite and I'm starting to cook, starting to prep, and I hear this flickering like paper, like a flicker on my bars. And I look over and it's Old Timer's hand. He's flicking my bars with a note. So I grab the note and I open it up and it says, "Youngblood, if you going out to the yard today, I would skip it. Them 2 gangs out there I heard was going to pop off, and you don't need to be around that. Also, if you crunch up the spicy hot Cheetos and mix them with the water before you boil the rice, it'll color the rice and flavor it and make it taste like the streets."
That was Sam telling his story here in the NCPR studios, all part of this season of the HOWL Podcast. Season 4, hard to believe that you guys keep letting me do this, and hard to believe that I'm continuing to allow myself to share embarrassing stories of my own. That's Season 4 of the podcast. You can listen wherever you get your podcasts, and now there is a newsletter version of the show.
There is
a newsletter version, so you can get even more of my unfiltered thoughts. I don't know who would want that, but you're getting it.
Does it take you 5 minutes or less to read?
Probably. It takes me a lot longer to write it.
Ethan Shantie is the host of the HOWL Podcast and co-producer or producer of the Northwards podcast. He joins us on Northwards, usually just to talk with me, but today he talked with you as well. I don't know what that meant. But Ethan, thank you.
Thanks, Mitch.
And now, Ethan, I'm going to invite you back into the studio to tell us who produces this show.
Happy to be here. Northwards is an NCPR podcast production. The show is written, produced, and edited by Mitch Teich with digital production supervision by me. I'm Ethan Shantie. Caitlin Kelly is our social media manager, Bill Hanel is our director of digital services, and Doyle Dean is our production manager. To hear more conversations and to support this show, visit ncpr.org/northwards. This is NCPR, North Country Public Radio.
Hey, before you go, Ethan, where can people learn more about the HOWL?
They can go to ncpr.org/howl. Do you want to howl?
Oh!